Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Right now in Warzone here in Season 3, the Assault Rifle category is probably the most competitive it's ever been in Warzone because of all the TTK updates that we saw within Season 3 and the return of Verdansk, how they buffed the damage and wanted the TTK to feel there, the addition of a lot of the new weapons here in Season 3. This category is insanely competitive. There are so many strong options, whether you're looking for sniper support, mid to long range, even some versatile close range, mid-range, long-range builds. But today I'm gonna try my best to narrow it down to the top 5 best assault rifles that you need to be using right now, or best rifle builds, because there is one asterisk here. That said, we got to start first on true game data to try and narrow down some of the best rifles to just a general 5. Then we'll go through and rank them 1 to 5. Of course, as always, huge shout out to Tony for getting us all this information, making it so easily dissectable. We've got a list of some of the solid rifles in the game: the AK, the AMAX, the Cypher. The SWAT is on here. You might be saying, wait a second, imposter, that is a marksman rifle. I've got it set up for the GRAU conversion kit. Let's be honest, that's an assault rifle. I'm calling it as an assault rifle. If you don't like that, you're free to express that, but it won't change the fact that I'm recording this in the past by the time you're seeing this video, so it won't have any impact on the video. We also got the Kilo in here, of course, the Krig, the Goblin, the GPR, the AIMS. When we go through, we look at 300 health combination shot TTK. Like I said, this category is competitive. There are so many good choices here. Like, quite frankly, nothing that you're seeing on this graph right now, which is just 9 rifles, is a bad choice. There's even more that we could add onto the list here that would also be plenty viable. We got to break this down. We got to knock 4 off this list. Unfortunately, the first one that stands out the least to me in terms of competitiveness is going to be the AIMS, which is a lot to say because the AIMS is still a very good rifle. It is low recoil, incredibly easy to use, but as you can see, first damage range here, the sort of indigo line, it's got an early drop off, and its TTK over range is definitely one of these slower options. So for that, it is going to get knocked down a tad bit there. Another one is actually going to be the GPR. As good as versatile as this is, the sort of lime line, it's really good in the mid range here. Again, over range, just in terms of a top 5, it's just a little bit lacking versus some of these other choices that really stand out. And as we knock more off this list, the tougher it becomes to really narrow down to a top 5. The next one that I am looking at, though, ultimately is the Goblin, because while yes, our hot pink line here is in the mix the entirety of this graph, even at one point has the best TTK, it's also the line that's going to vary the most depending on your skill level. Every other rifle that's listed here is super easy to use by comparison to the Goblin. Because this is semi-auto, it requires you to spam a fast trigger finger and maintain accuracy, which is just asking you to do way more than any of these other rifles is. So if you're insanely good at the Goblin, yes, you could achieve this wildly fast TTK at 60 meters. But if you're not super consistent, it could be, you know, even worse than where the AIMS was in terms of the long range TTK there too, right? So just the skill gap there is, in my opinion, knocking this just barely out of that top 5. And then lastly, really with these 6 that we've got left here between the AK, the AMAX, the Cypher, the SWAT, the Kilo, the Krig, a lot of this is probably coming down to feel. Like, yes, the Kilo, clearly you would say, okay, that's the slowest TTK, it's got to be knocked off. But also the Kilo's velocity is insanely dependable. It's going to feel like hit scan at almost every range. It's insanely low recoil throughout, so your realistic TTK is probably going to be a lot more competitive than what this graph shows. The SWAT, really competitive TTK, or the GRAU, really competitive TTK throughout, right? So you're not necessarily worried about that too much. Cypher, easy to use. AMAX and AK, crazy TTKs. It really only leaves the Krig, which, yes, very competitive, not a bad rifle, but definitely the most awkward feeling. Its recoil is a little bit funky here and there. So to me, again, just barely misses that top 5. So we end up with 5 phenomenal rifles, a lot of new choices and a lot of very strong choices. So that said, now let's jump in game. Let's break down the best loadouts for these, figure out the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 order. As we do so, if you enjoy the video, you find the info helpful, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you're in the know for all things going on in COD, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. So at number 5, I've got the Kilo. As we saw, its TTK on the graph at least is going to be the lowest, and quite frankly, these other rifles are also not too difficult to use. The AMAX and the AK, a little bit more recoil, but also way better damage there, right? So the balance there is interesting. If you're just a player who loves the low recoil weapons, then maybe yes, the Kilo is like a top 3 option for you. But I think in general here, if you know what you're doing with weapons, you can have a higher upside with some other choices, but this thing is phenomenal. So straightforward, so reliable, maybe the most dependable gun in the game as it stands. First up here for the optic, go with whatever one you're comfortable with. For me, that's the Otero Red Dot. I also love the Volsky Reflex, the Dobrik 4 times, the Willis 3 times. There's a lot of good choices choices here, really just a matter of preference at the end of the day. Monolithic suppressor here is huge, extending out our range and our velocity, and of course keeping us off the radar. This weapon not being too difficult to use, you don't really need a compensator because we do also have the vertical foregrip on here as well, helping out with some of that horizontal control and some recoil stabilization, making the weapon a bit more predictable. To stack on top of monolithic though, with that better range and velocity, long barrel giving us even better range. Reinforced barrel is also really good there if you just want the best damage range possible, because you already have over 1,000 velo with just monolithic on there. Then you could rock long barrel. Reinforced on here though does give you a slightly worse range, just under 50 meters for the drop off there, but then a 1200 velocity. So if you want that great hit scan feel at some pretty extreme distances, run reinforced. If you just want an insane range so that faster TTK stays fast further out, go for long barrel. Either or there is going to work great. Then also extended mag 2 here to me is just going to be solid. 60 is more than enough with this rate of fire. Extended 3 being 80, little overkill there. I don't feel like you need that. You could absolutely run that. You're just going to be a little bit slower. Me, for my preference, I like extended 2 and that works fine for me. But yeah, the kilo just feels great right now. At number 4, I've got the AK, which might come as a surprise, but also I feel like it's a little bit justified just because the skill gap here, while yes, on paper it has one of, if not the best TTK in the category, it also has pretty extreme recoil. Like, you do have to work quite a bit, especially as you get out to 40, 50, 60, 70 meters. It's tough to stay on target with this thing. Like, it does take a lot of patience, a lot of practice to really master this recoil pattern, even with the max control, you know, sort of build here, if you will. So again, for the optic, matter of preference, Otero Red Dot has been serving me nicely over the past few weeks, so I've been sort of maining this on a lot of my mid to long range guns. As much as I'd love to use monolithic here and get a better range and a better velocity, just with that control, compensator is so important for the better vertical control. For what it's worth though, if you wanted, you could also swap that out for recoil springs straight up and get slightly better horizontal and vertical control. It just matters how much you want of that, but you know, going back and forth there, totally applicable. Or if you're using a gunfighter loadout, you just stack all of this on there and then throw in like an ergonomic rear grip and a balanced stock or an infiltrator stock, and you'll have 8 attachments that work really well too. But then beyond that, reinforced barrel, range and velocity, we're up over a 50 meter effective damage range. 1,000 velocity is going to work fine as well there. Vertical foregrip, obviously for the max horizontal control, making this weapon as predictable as it can be with this on there. Obviously it's still going to have a lot of stuff you're going to have to adjust to for the bounce there, but it's better than it is without it, obviously. And then extended 2 here as well. It's a 50 rounder. It works fine at this fire rate. Once more, if you're okay with the larger slowdown that's extended 3 has here, being a 60, if you want those 10 extra bullets, it's viable. You're just going to notice your ADS and whatnot is going to be a tad bit slower. So just a matter of preference there for me. 50 works fine, and I've been using that for some time without any real issue. Takes some time to get used to, but man, this thing can fry. Next up at number 3, I've got the Cypher, an extremely versatile option. This could be sniper support, mid to long range, 8 attachments, 5 attachments. Doesn't matter. It's going to be good in all of those scenarios. For me here, I'm just rocking a basic overkill 5 attachment build. In this case, going for the Volsky reflex like this. It's a clean dot sight. Again, if you have a different optic you enjoy using more, you're more comfortable with, feel free to go ahead and rock that. Monolithic suppressor in this case, weapon's not too terribly difficult to use, so we extend our range and our velocity there, and reinforced barrel stacks on that even more. So over a 50 meter effective damage range, 1,166 velo is going to be feeling great there for that hit scan range. Not going to have to worry about that dropping off too severely at all. Because this is relatively easy to use, I've been rocking Ranger on this a lot. It's still going to give me some horizontal control, which is always good, just not as much as vertical. If you want to go all in on that, you absolutely can. But I do like the slight mobility increase that Ranger does offer with the sprinting movement speed there. And then once again, extended 2, a 60 rounder, gonna work fine for all squad sizes here. No concerns with the damage per mag or anything. And this thing is as consistent as it comes. This sort of rivals the Kilo in terms of the easiest weapons to use. Now at number 2, we've got my absolute favorite weapon of all time in Warzone, the GRAU. Maybe not the favorite version. I think MW 2019's still has the edge up on this one, but the GRAU conversion kit for the SWAT 556, it's a rifle. It shoots rifle ammo. It behaves like all these other ones do, and it melts. Low recoil, great velocity, good damage, and TTK. It's checking all the right boxes here. You do first and foremost have to use the conversion kit attachment here outright, so unfortunately that is one of the attachments you have to rock. Luckily though, it's essentially giving you a hybrid Archangel barrel there in a sense, because it's helping out with the velocity and it gives you the good irons there. They're not the greatest irons, but they're good enough. They work for sure. On top of that, I'm still rocking monolithic suppressors, so we end up with a 1200 velocity, insane stat there, just under a 50-meter effective damage range. Vertical foregrip makes this recoil pattern incredibly predictable, so I love that. Full auto extended mag, your only option here. It's a 50. We're all rocking that, of course. No real, discussion to be held there because everything else is restricted, of course. Then lastly, I like balanced stock on here for some better movement and some better strafe. I really like the feel of that in general. I do think there's an option for, a rear grip quick draw for a better ADS or commando if you wanted it on there. If you don't like the irons, you could rock an optic instead. I personally think they're very usable though. So it's an interesting setup, but man, it gets the job done. And then lastly here at number 1, we've got the AMAX. It's got a bit more recoil than some of these other options like the GRAU or the Kilo or the Cypher, but it's not too terribly difficult. I find it to be much easier to use than the AK. It also has the TTK equivalent of the AK, so it's easier to use, same TTK. It sounds like it's the best rifle to me, right? This thing destroys. It is such a blast to use because you're so confident going into every single gunfight. Again, for the optic, matter of preference, I'm rocking Oturo red dot here. Because I'm pretty comfortable with this recoil, I do go for monolithic. I don't feel like you need compensator or recoil springs. That's not to say that's not an option if you're not comfortable with the control using monolithic. Feel free to test out those. It's not going to be the end of the world if you don't have the extra velocity and range. While it is very helpful getting a 1200 velocity and a 65 almost meter effective damage range there, you can do without that. With just the compensator on there, you're still over 1000 velocity and still almost at a 60 meter effective damage range. So that's practical as well if you want that. Reinforced barrel, obviously stacking on top, so we do get those crazy velocity and range numbers. Vertical foregrip, helping out that horizontal control. And then lastly, of course, extended mag 2 here, gonna be a 60, and you only have a 632 RPM, so that's not a concern for DPM. That's gonna work fine for all squad sizes as well. And this thing just absolutely destroys. Again, if you wanted to upgrade to gunfighter, rear grip for a better ADS, stock for better strafe or whatever, and then recoil springs, the weapon would be even more advantageous, right? That being said, that's gonna wrap things up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, you found it helpful, a like rating is always really appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, you want to guarantee that every single day you are in the know for all things going on in COD, feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.